Hi there, Cam here from Training Tilt. Welcome to this week's episode of Endurance Coaching Business. This week's episode is brought to you, as always, by Training Tilt, an all-in-one branded endurance coaching platform. Think of it as your own version of Training Peaks that you can control the athlete accounts, set up your branding, offer one-on-one coaching or your own template training plans, or within your own branded system. And we even have, I haven't publicized this much, I haven't pushed this much, but we even have the ability to create a separate version of our mobile app and brand it up for you, strip out all of the Training Tilt branding and install it into the app stores, Apple and Android app stores under your own name and branding. So you could just be your own version of Training Peaks that you're selling to your audience. Anyway, special episode this week as we head into summer here in New Zealand. I know it's summer because Nikki just delivered me a bowl of strawberries, which is amazing. Um, and yes, so I've got a coaching expert on this episode. You might have heard of Michelle Lake. She's an endurance coach, but she also coaches other endurance coaches to help them with the business side of things, which is awesome because there's not a lot of that service out there. I wrote a blog about Michelle quite a while ago, so you might have seen her name in our emails before, but I wanted to get her on the podcast because I really want another resource for coaches who use Training Talk, but also listen to the podcast and are on our mailing list, for someone to help them with the business side of their endurance coaching. So there's loads of resources online to help you with um, the coaching side of things, but not much on there to help you specifically with the business side of things. And all businesses are different. So there's very specific, some really general, but also some very specific advice for endurance coaches in particular. So sorry, I'm beating around the bush. So let's just get into the episode with Michelle Lake, and I will talk to you again soon. I've got Michelle Lake here with me. So, Michelle, you and I work with the same types of people. So, I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for ages, just to learn a little bit more about your story from your original career to becoming a endurance coach and then moving on to helping other endurance coaches with their businesses. So, both of our clients, so I run an endurance coaching platform. We share the same clients, and I know that my clients need help with their businesses. So, I want to share your story and how you can help them with my audience and hopefully send some people your way. And I try a little bit to help my coaches on the business and marketing side of things, but my specialty is helping them with the software and technology. So I want them to have, some more options to go to. So maybe if you just introduce yourself and we can go from there.
Okay. Hi, I'm Michelle Lake. I'm in the United States. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, which is a very interesting place to live,
Yeah.
especially these days worldwide. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. I am a Naval Academy grad, which is one of our service academies, which is a military school, but then you have to serve a number of years. So I was in the U.S. Navy on ships. So I have not been to New Zealand, but I have been Australia in the Navy and Singapore and Southeast Asia and a bunch of places many years back. And I was a government contractor when I got out of the Navy. And then I found triathlon, which wasn't super surprising because I was a swimmer at the Naval Academy. So it kind of I was competitive on the collegiate team, conference champion, and started doing triathlon and quickly thereafter started helping to build a team. And our team got up to about 150 members. And I actually asked my boss to go part-time so that I could train and build the team, which is so ridiculous thinking back now that I was going to give up money, but I didn't want to work as many hours. So I went down to about 30 to 35 hours every week instead of the normal 40 actually that we do here in the US. And I started coaching then once I did that. And then in 2013, I went, full-time coaching. Actually, in Kona, I made the decision. I wasn't racing, but I was coaching. And then in 2015, we had my son. 2016, I started my own coaching business. And then COVID happened. And I'm sure there's a lot of people had some major turnarounds or changes in their life when that happened. And business was going fine for me. I didn't lose a lot of athletes, but I definitely lost. I wasn't the place I was in 2016 when I started the new business. It was like a slow shrinking. I had a lot of hangups on marketing. I thought if you marketed, it meant you weren't a good coach. It meant you were desperate. I believed that my niche, which was helping athletes qualify for Kona, was going to be enough for me to get more athletes. Like if I'm really good at this, which I was pretty good at it, that I would just keep getting athletes without having to do any marketing. And things shrunk because I didn't do any marketing.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. And I was like, you know what? I don't even need to market anymore because people are losing their jobs. So might as well just stop marketing because it would be rude. I was doing a little bit. I had done a
Yeah.
tiny amount, like a very bare minimum, and then I went to zero because I was like, well, if COVID, people are losing their jobs and they're dying or whatever was going on at that time. So I stopped completely, which I now realize were all mindset blocks along the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every business markets, right? Every business. So I realized in a couple of different epiphanies that not only was I I had a lot more time in my day than coaching the 20 or so athletes I had, but also that I needed to market and that I could get business help. And it was through a joint friend of ours, Mickey. Mickey was a very big turning point. I didn't get to tell you this story, but she posted about a business mentor on Instagram in a bio that she posted. She like tagged someone, and I found business coaching, and I was like, I didn't even know there was such a thing. And I went kind of down a major rabbit hole. It was like late 2020 or it was early 2021, somewhere around there. And I completely learned everything I could about business and marketing and coaching businesses and using that, business coaching for coaching businesses. And one of my first mentors was like, you know what, you really need to start a podcast because all your athletes are riding bikes and running and sitting in stationary places like treadmills and
Yeah.
bike trainers all the time and turbos. And you should create a podcast. And I didn't want to create one because I thought there were too many that were just talking about how to get faster. And I was like, no, I'm not really interested. Mickey kept pushing me. She's like, you should create a group program. I was like, I don't even know what that would be. So I had a lot of ideas about what I would create, or that I wanted to create something, but I didn't know what it was. And then I was driving my car in the mountains, listening to some music, and it came to me that I wanted to create a podcast helping coaches learn from good businesses. And I was thinking of like those top coaches that we all know about and not talking about how they train their athletes, but how they've created enduring, profitable businesses. I was thinking of like the Purple Patches and
Yeah.
the other big coaching businesses. I would interview people like that. And then it was like a bug in my ear, and I kept thinking about, this is the longest bio ever. I apologize. I kept thinking
No, it's
about,
great. No, it's great.
oh my gosh, I want to tell people this. I want to tell people this. I had such an itch to help people that I created the Instagram account, Coach Michelle Lake, in March of 2022. And that was the start of this business. I started helping a couple coaches one-on-one. The program became more of a one-on-one hybrid in the fall of 2022, about 2 years ago. And now we have 50 coaches in that program. And then we've also since created a smaller program, a program for more beginner coaches to intermediate coaches that aren't quite sure what they want to do with their business yet. It's a little bit more affordable. And for those that aren't quite sure they're all in it yet. So we have some coaches in that program too. So we're up to about 80 coaches and some major success stories. And the main thing that we're trying to help coaches with is help them go from coach to coachpreneur, which is my word for a coach that's also an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
since I find that most coaches see their business as a coaching only thing, not as a business, and I want to teach them how to grow an entrepreneurial type business.
Yeah. That's
That's
awesome.
all.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I think that's pretty, your journey up to being a endurance coach is pretty typical of the coaches, especially the ones that I've talked to that, they start with being passionate about the sport itself and then figure out that they are good at helping people and then move into that part-time. I mean, it's an amazing business type of business that you can do part-time. Like there's nothing that means that you have to like jump into it 100% straight away. And well, actually, I think that would probably be a bad idea to
Go
do
for
that.
it.
Yeah, because it takes time to build up your client base and to build up your own skills. And you touched on some really interesting things as well. And it's probably the biggest thing that I see coaches struggle with. Actually, they're not necessarily struggling with it. I just think they're not really aware of it about marketing. And they have that same attitude, especially if they don't come from another business background. Like I find some coaches come from a corporate or a business or a sales background and they understand it already, so they can jump into it and they don't have that sort of hang up. But yeah, a lot of coaches think that if they're doing marketing, it means they're not good at coaching, they're not good at their product.
Mhm.
And I think it's the same across a lot of industries as well. So I'm a software developer by trade, and software people are the same. They just think, oh, if I just build this amazing product that is great, then it'll just sell itself. And it's like, no. The first thing is no one's even going to know about you, even if you're the best coach in the world, if you're not doing some marketing. And the other thing is I find as well that coaches are a little bit confused about what marketing is. That they think it's just sales. But
Yes.
yeah, so the biggest part of marketing is like you're taking what you can do for a client and then what they need, and then you're just putting yourself out there to put the both of you together. So it's like you're not trying to sell something to someone who doesn't need what you're selling. It's like,
Trying to find that
yeah, you
connection.
find that link. So it's like, oh, there's all of these athletes out here that are a perfect match for you. But if you don't do marketing, they're never gonna find out about you. So it's not like, oh, sorry, I'm just gonna say it's not like trying to convince someone that they need to do this. It's actually just like putting yourself out there so they see you, your story resonates, and they go, oh, that's perfect for me.
Absolutely. And I teach my coaches also to think of content and marketing as content and content
Mm,
as a coach accelerator first and foremost. So it helps you think through and communicate and determine what matters in your business and what you want to talk about and how you can help people. Like become a much better communicator. So it's kind of helps you first and foremost be a better coach. So it's like I call it an accelerator because you can sit down and think about like, ooh, let me think about the importance of triathlon transitions and what is really important about it. So then when they go coach their athlete doing their first time Ironman, they're like a first time Ironman, they can more specifically and succinctly coach them on what actually matters because they've sat down and written about it. Like that's obviously
mm,
like a basic example, but it's really important for that. But also I believe that we're all here to do good. And if we can help others through free content, the universe or whatever is going to thank us by creating, opportunities for us to help more and more people. So it's not even really sales and marketing, but content creation. It's not just
mm.
for sale, it's also for these other things that are really
Yeah,
important. And I try to hit those home because I feel like they make athletes, excuse me, coaches, I get confused sometimes. They help coaches feel better about the content and the marketing stuff because they realize it's not just for sales, right? It's for a
yeah,
bunch of other reasons that are really beneficial to them and their athletes and athletes that don't work with them.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, the other thing is like no, was it no, like, and trust?
Yes.
So
Build
people,
trust.
first need to know you, and then they need to like you, and then they need to trust you. If you don't get those three things, then like no one's gonna want to be coached by you. So content is the way to get that out there, and there's all of these tools out there at the moment. And prior to social media and YouTube and all of those things, and you got like and trust from a referral from another client. But the content is just like accelerating that process and getting, you
Yeah.
can spread your net a lot wider other than the network of people that you already
Yeah,
coach.
it extends you, but it also it allows you to if your referrals could take a long time if you don't know a lot of people. So it
Yep.
helps you and it also helps you niche. Like if you say, like I have a coach that works with cancer survivors. So they've just finished their cancer treatment and they want to get into a race. She can work with athletes all over the world. She doesn't have to find just cancer survivors in her
Mm,
town. Be a much more limited, base of people because of content and social media. It's an opportunity to get beyond, way beyond just where you live, and you can work with people kind of all over, which is one reason I recommend that coaches get a little bit more specific with who they work
mm.
with rather than I coach everyone about everything
Yeah,
and everyone,
yeah.
right?
Can we dig into that a little bit more? Because the niche things are like something else that I find coaches struggle with as well. Like often you'll land on I do heaps of research on like as I'm looking for customers for my own software, I go to coaches' websites and quite often you'll see something like whatever your goals are, we can build a
Yeah.
program to help you or whatever. And it's like they're like, oh, so this means that I'll get more customers because I'm going wider. But then no one reads that and goes, "Oh, great, you can do something for anyone that's not me." So
Yeah, absolutely. And it's when you're you don't attract anyone. And one of the reasons why I think it's really important in niche is that I believe that every athlete, beyond maybe the very new beginners, knows 10 coaches. So if you're like, hey, I coach everyone and everything, at least 10 coaches. Like most athletes know lots
mm,
of coaches right now, right? So
yeah,
they're picking based on who they feel like they connect with, but also who they can really help them. And an example that I didn't make up, but somebody said once, and I can't remember who it was, but when you go to an airport and they make the announcement about not leaving your bags unattended, nobody listens to it
yeah.
because it's the same message they say every hour on the hour constantly, at least in the US they do. But if you're not even near your gate, but you hear, Michelle Lake, go to gate 43, immediately you like pick up your bag and run over there because you're nervous that you lost your seat or that there's a problem with your ticket, or maybe you're being upgraded to first class. Like you're running over there to find out because they've said your name. And that's the same thing with niching, is that when you try to attract everyone, you attract no one. And when you're really specific, you may not attract everyone, but the one that hears their name. I'm trying to think of, there was a really good example recently where a woman was posting about a specific habit that she had with ADHD, that she would sit under a blanket on a chair, her feet can't touch the ground. She needs to eat the same meal every day, and that she watches really dumb TV, and she has to watch really dumb TV while she eats. And I was looking at this picture of her doing this in the same exact position, and I have ADHD, I have all the things, and I was like, how can I hire? How can I pay her right now? She's clearly talking directly to me, right? Because she was specific. Like she was so specific.
Yeah,
It's like I didn't know anybody else ate food like this, like I do. But I saw that and I was like, that is me. I don't sit at a table ever unless I'm in a restaurant. Like I don't. And I'm always under a blanket. Like I have a blanket on right now. Like unless it's hot summer, I'm in under a blanket. But it connected to me because I was like, that is me. And I think a lot of coaches and their Instagram profiles, I find that in most cases, that's where most athletes are hanging out. Not all athletes, but most. And their profiles, just like I coach triathletes worldwide. It's like,
mm,
okay, that's going to be a clear pass. Like somebody's going to take, I believe, about 7 seconds to make a decision if they want to follow you or not. And if it doesn't spark interest in them, they're gone. And one of my tips is always to have your location there, because location is always it connects someone, but it doesn't make you go, well, I'm not going to follow you
yeah,
because you're not in my location. Location's so important. People love to connect with like, where are you from? Right? Like everybody always, where did you from? Where did you go to college? Like, where was your first Ironman? Whatever. People care about location. So put it on your profile, but get more specific. And I do see the fear that a lot of coaches have. It's scary to say, well, what if I turn someone off because I'm specific? And I coach people, I say all over, I'm here for elite Ironman and 70.3, trying to qualify for Kona. That's what I say. And then I get people that are beginners. I get people off Google. I get people
mm,
are doing Olympic distance. And I'm like, cool. We connect. Let's work together. Like, I don't have to just work with those people. Like, you're still going to get other types of inquiries. You still will.
yeah,
Promise.
yeah,
Swear.
yeah. Yeah, it happens. I think that's probably the best advice. And I mean, it does seem counterintuitive until you hear an explanation like that. and then it's obvious that that's not, that's the right thing to do, to pick a niche. And also, is it like I can't remember where I heard the concept of like revolving door decisions. Like
Mhm.
some decisions you can walk through the door and then come back out again, and it's no big deal, as opposed to closed door decisions where you walk through the door and you can't come out again. And like
Oh
picking
yeah.
a niche is one of those decisions. So it's not, if you pick the wrong niche or it doesn't work out, then you
Change.
just change it. Like
Yeah. Just
people
talk
don't
about
rem
people don't remember, and that's the power of
mm,
content that you just start writing about the new thing.
yeah, there's no,
Just people forget really
yeah,
quickly. They remember, oh well, like there's plenty of people that won't forget or
yeah,
will
it's
forget.
the same, yeah. Same thing with being worried about putting out content, like worried about the quality of it, and and then if you have a good thing that I've been doing is, if you see someone who's really good at content, and then you go to their like feed, like on their YouTube channel or something, and you scroll right back, like years ago or something, from some of their original content sucks, you
Yeah.
know?
Look at like Mr. B. Look at Mr. Beast sold stuff. I don't know why I'm using my son watches Mr. Beast. I don't
Yeah.
know if you know who Mr. Beast is in New Zealand, but
I
he's
just,
like that
yeah,
super
I just discovered him
subscribed
recently.
YouTuber.
Yeah, and I was like, how do they not know who this guy is? Like everyone in the whole world
Yeah,
knows
there's
who he
even like
is.
Mr. Beast like burgers here and like
Yep.
candy. So like yeah,
Yep.
but you get better with content. And somebody smart one said like the when you first start out, the least people are watching, the least number of
Mm,
people. So
yep.
might as well learn now and get consistent and practice it so that when you get later on, it's only going to evolve from where you
Yeah,
are. And
and you
um, yeah,
yep. And you can't practice like pretend. You can't like rehearse in your
no.
office or something and never put it out there, because there's no pressure, there's no, you
Yeah,
can't,
and there's
that's not how you learn.
feedback. Yeah, and you're not
Yeah.
helping people. So it's kind of
Mm,
I do see value in journaling and writing, like,
yeah.
asking yourself questions like, what problem do I solve? Like,
Mm,
who is my ideal athlete? And writing about it, I see that. We may not put it out, but what will happen when you do that is content ideas that will come from that journaling that will help you write
yeah.
content later. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So yeah, for me, I have whenever I think of something, I just put a title and a note in a list that I've got. And then so you always have hundreds of content ideas to come to. So then if because coaches are busy, so it's good to schedule it into your week or whatever, when you're going to create the content, create some structure around it. But then sometimes someone might cancel a call or something, and it's like, I've got an hour, and then it's like, what am I going to do some content about? It's like, no, you just go to your
go to your
list of
list.
ideas.
I'm a big believer in using Apple products, sorry, but
That's right.
the Apple Notes and then you can have it on your Mac. Like I'm looking at my notes here and I put every caption that I ever write, except for the really short ones, but every caption I write in Apple Notes first. And then I cut and paste it into Instagram. Also, back in the day, it doesn't happen as much, but Instagram used to like when you would try to be writing a long caption, it would like crash. It would crash and
Oh
you
yeah.
lose the caption. So using Apple Notes for that, and then I have a list on there because a lot of our athletes or a lot of our coaches are athletes and they're out running, and that's where you get ideas, or driving your car and
Mm.
you're like you have an idea and you're like, oh, or you're out on a bike ride, you're at a stoplight, you like pull your phone out and do a quick voice note or something to remember because like squirrels with their nuts here in the US, you guys have squirrels, right?
We don't have
Squirrels,
squirrels. No squirrels.
you don't have
No.
squirrels, so squirrels lose 80% of their nuts that they hide.
Oh,
So it's a little bit like content ideas. So 80% of the ideas that you have will be gone if you don't write them down
yep.
or you create them right away. So often I'll be like, I have 10 minutes before a meeting. Like I'm trying to create it
Mm.
quick. I'm worried it's gonna the inspiration and the idea is gonna go away. So yeah, the squirrels hide tons of nuts this time of year and then they lose them. They don't know, they just hide them everywhere. So then they eventually when they're going to look for them, they'll find them randomly. It's pretty inefficient system.
It's inefficient
Yeah.
squirrels. Um,
Random.
so why don't you tell me a little bit more about your programs? So
Okay, I would
yeah.
love to. So I
Yeah.
have two main programs. The first and original one is our signature program. It's called the Dream to Six. And what that means is the dream is a big word for me and in our programs because I want coaches to see their business as something they can dream about, not just something that they're stuck in. And I will say that there's been a long time, at least in the US with coaching, but where it's been seen as like a unprofessional, hobby only, don't charge your worth, not a viable career path. That there's been a lot of that going
Yeah.
around. And
Yeah.
I believe the exact opposite because I was lucky enough to create a pretty great business with my coaching company, 5-3 Racing, in 2020. Do the math really quickly. 2021 was my first six-figure year. 2022, I think that business made 137 thousand US dollars, mostly from me. I had another coach then, but basically I was bringing home really good money, which was the top 0.0001% or whatever
Yeah.
of, and I'm like, if I can do it, somebody else can do it too. And I guarantee, I know businesses, I know a business owner in the US whose business that just was started in 2020 made $1 million US dollars last. I have to think what year it is, right? It's 2024 now. So 2023.
Yeah. Almost
And
2025.
I know it's
Almost.
crazy. But I think there are examples, but we don't talk a lot about them. And it's one of those like hidden, like, ooh, you shouldn't talk about money because it would make coaching not as a like nice thing to do. Like if you talk
Yeah.
about money, it ruins it, right? And I don't like that. So the dream means that we can dream about our coaching businesses too. And my goal for coaches in the Dream to Six is that they go from hobby to part-time to full-time to six figures. Like that's what the six and in Dream to Six means. And that program is for intermediate to advanced coaches. It's worldwide. We have two Australians, someone that lives in Germany. She's US, but moved there. Quite a few in the UK and Scotland and that area of the world, Ireland, and a lot in the US and Canada. And that program is pretty, I wouldn't say intensive, but it's if you're fully sure that this is what you want to do it with your life, like this is the place for you to go. If you're kind of like, I'm not sure, I've got like one foot in coaching, one foot out, like it's probably
Yeah.
your program. It's for the coaches that are like, I know there's more. I know I can grow. We have coaches that have six assistant coaches, coaches that have, are making 10,000 or more months. We have coaches that have one has a team of 500 athletes. We have registered dietitians that are also coaches. We have physical therapists, all in the endurance space. You have to be somewhere in the swim, bike, run world. And we have all kinds of different coaches, but there's about 50 of them in that program. And you get a monthly one-on-one, but also a weekly group call because I see the value in both the one-on-one for accountability, blind spot avoidance, and just getting to really know a coach's business. Like I've been in group programs where they don't know what's going on. And I want to know my coaches really well. And then also the group component where the actual most of our teaching happens is in our weekly group calls, which we are up to, I'm scared to say it, we have 85 hours of trainings recorded. So everything in topics of content marketing, sales, copywriting, branding, sales journey, growing who you know, which is network building, more leads, time management, and mindset. Mindset tends to be our most popular. People really like
Yeah.
having a community to talk through business and entrepreneurial mindset. And that program is awesome. It's my baby. It's really been a beauty to join, to grow and help so many coaches. And we have coaches that have been in it since the beginning, which is amazing. And seeing their businesses go from 6 athletes to 30 athletes, a team of 115, six assistant coaches, a race director. This is all one person, all while homeschooling their children. That's one of my assistant coaches, Robin, what she's done. So we have some amazing success stories, but also just to give people community. Like you don't feel like they're on an island. Like you feel like a
Yeah.
lot as a coach that you're on an island. The coaches, maybe in the US, I don't know if everywhere, but I hear it could be this way, that the coach down the street you're fighting over athletes with. We need places where we're collaborative and we work together and we're not worried. We're living in abundance. So that's the Dream to Six. And then the other program is our junior program for beginner to intermediate coaches. It's much more affordable, but there's no one-on-one. It's a monthly masterclass. It's a 6 module course and it is a monthly Q&A. So it does give you support, but it's for those that are like, hey, I'm brand new. I don't know where to start. There's most certifications. I can't really speak for your area in the world, but in the US, from what I hear in a couple other countries locally, do not provide any, or it's like a 1 hour module on business in quotes. And there's no support. And there's no like, hey, do I build a website first or do I get my first client? And I'll give you a hint. Most coaches build a website before they get a
Yep.
client and they put to put
Yep.
on it and it's bland and it then they decide after client number two, if they even were lucky to get two, that they don't like coaching and they quit and they've just invested a ton of money in things. So it's teaching them how to get clients first and foremost to teach so in sustainable sales systems so that they can continue to grow a business and then maybe join the Dream to Six or stay in Dream Launcher. We have some, it's called Dream Launcher, hence the more of a beginner program, beginner to intermediate. We have some great intermediate coaches in there that are loving it. They just don't have maybe the time, they have a full-time job and don't have the time to do as much of the training. So I love our little product suite that we have. It's not this massive 50,000 different things, just two, intermediate to advanced and beginner to intermediate. And if you want to learn more, you can DM me at Coach Michelle Lake, 2 L's in Michelle. And I'd love to chat with you about your business needs. Is that enough? Did I did I
Yeah, no,
tell?
that's awesome. That's awesome. And I loved almost everything. Well, no, I loved everything that you said there, actually. And I think, the coaching as a profession, I think that a lot of the coaches themselves don't take that seriously enough that it is a professional. Like you are, just because you have, you're not just because you're not a lawyer or accountant or something doesn't mean you don't have the same skills and then you can't help people as much and that you shouldn't take yourself and your
Just because it's
business as
fun.
seriously. Yeah. Yeah. Just because
Even
it's
if
fun
it's
doesn't mean
fun,
it's
doesn't
not.
be a profession. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. And it's our job, you, Cam, me, it's our job and we can do this all together to create a more professional environment. And then athletes are going to get better results because of that professional environment, which I still hear the number one reason that coaches lose their jobs with their athletes is that they don't get their plans in on time. Still the
Yeah.
thing I hear about all the time that
Yep.
athletes, they wake up on a Monday morning or even a Tuesday morning and they haven't had a plan since Sunday.
Yeah.
And our job to if we can increase the professionalism, provide more value, the whole industry is going to be a better industry. We're going to have more coaches, more athletes, more races. Like we have an opportunity here to make some major change, which I think is amazing. And a lot of it's just in the mindset of all these individual coaches that are either doing it just to write off their bike.
Yeah.
I want to buy a new bike, so I'm going to coach a few athletes, or
Yep.
you know, maybe not having the mindset to build something amazing that's theirs that they just didn't even know what was possible. That was me for the first 10 years. I had no clue that I could even get business help or do anything. I just thought it was on me to have all my mindset issues and stress that all my athletes were leaving all the time on my
Yeah.
own.
Yeah. And
Won't
and
get
and
into
mine's
quick.
yeah. Mindset's such a big thing, particularly around getting coaching. Like it's not an expense, like it's an investment. And
100%.
Over the last few years, I've spent a lot of money on coaching for my business, and like I wouldn't take any of it back. It's just you learn so much, and when there's a coaching community as well, like when there's a community of other coaches in it. So for me, I was in a business getting coached by a guy based in the US because here in New Zealand there's nothing like this. We're such a small country and a small industries, everything is small. And it was software specific, so software businesses, and everyone was going through the same struggles. And you're like, and it just takes a layer of that stress off. Like you're thinking, oh, why is this not working for me, or why am I struggling with this? And then you just realize, oh, everyone is
Oh
struggling
yeah.
with this. Yep.
And it's
And just the amount of time that it saves you. Like, like if I had this business coaching in my first few years of the business, I would have saved myself years of doing the wrong thing, you know?
it's scary though, because you're like, I'm investing in something that maybe I
Mm,
don't have come to cover yet. It was funny, I was on a sales call with a Dream to Sixer who did join, and she was like, well, I think I'm gonna do it in a few months. And I was like, but
mm,
why? There's always my
yeah,
question, but why? And she said, well, because I would like a few more athletes to feel comfortable about it, but actually you teach me how to get new athletes. So
yeah,
yeah, I was like, yes, because
Yeah,
that's
that's
it. Like you see it as an investment, not as a like it's not. And a lot of it goes back to self-doubt. Like you're like, am I going to follow through? Am I going to do the work? Am I right for coaching? And those are the objections that we have to work through with our athletes too, that are like, am I good enough for a coach? Am I fast enough for a coach? Am I going to follow through? Am I going to do
mm,
what the work say? Am I going to skip workouts like I always do? Like, it's
yeah.
there. We have to deal with all these things as well. Like, are we going to be committed to it? And that's, yeah, just rambling on about commitment. But I love that you got a software coach, specific coach, and that's beautiful because it's probably been a huge, like you said, it's a huge, huge thing. And coaches need coaches. I always wonder when there's a coach that's like, yeah, I've never been coached before. I'm like,
Yeah. Hard to,
interesting.
yeah, if you don't appreciate coaching, it's very hard to like try and sell it to someone else if you don't value it yourself. But I think I think people can eventually, even if you're listening now and you're thinking, oh, I don't need a coach, or I'm not sure what the coach would tell me or whatever, you'll get to the point, I think, where, it's a slow progress. You're like, oh, and then once you get one, you're just like, oh, ding, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is why I needed a
Yeah.
coach.
And sometimes I always think that it's the strategy that the coaches want. They're like, I want you to teach me how to sell this, or I want you to teach me how to do
Mm,
content. And then I did a little survey with a couple of my coaches. I was like, just tell me what's going, like the ones that are doing really well in the program. I sent like a quick little question. And all were, the number one thing was they were like, well, obviously, like I've grown so much, but it's really the community of coaches that I never knew I needed. And I'm like,
mm,
yes. One of those people that loves connecting people. Like I'm a connector. So I'm always
yeah,
like, one of my biggest goals in life is to make people friends. So I'm like, I created coach community where they feel supported, and yes. So that's
yeah,
always a favorite of mine. But the community part is a part that I never really like. You're not going to get it in a free Facebook group. Like that's just
no,
not. It
no.
doesn't work that way. Oh, yeah.
All right, this has been awesome. I'll let you go now, but why don't you give us those? I know you gave some links. Why don't you give them again now? But I'll make sure I put them in the
I think
notes
the
too.
easiest way, probably the two best ways to get to know more about me is I have a podcast called The Endurance Coachpreneur, and it's Coachpreneur, so it's like in one word. It's on Apple and Spotify and all those things, and it comes out weekly. And then I have probably the best way to reach me is just send me a DM at Coach Michelle Lake. And you could either send me a DM or you can go to my link tree there on Coach Michelle. I find that the easiest way to find me on Instagram. And I have some free downloads and other things, but the best way is just send me a DM. And I do not many chat. I respond to all of them
Oh,
myself.
good.
So I don't have somebody answering them for me. One time somebody asked me if I was a robot, and I was like, or a bot. I'm like, nope, that's me.
Excellent. And people love that too when they realize, like,
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised that, oh, you're answering all of your messages. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Oh, yes. I love DMs.
Ah,
My
great.
DMs are always open. Well, thank you for having me.
Yep, no worries. And yeah, you enjoy your evening. Appreciate your time. And yeah, hopefully talk to you soon. I really enjoyed this.
Okay, thank you.